think you guys are probably going to enjoy functions, right? I think you guys are going to enjoy functions. Now, I want to move to a server script to handle our functions. Okay. So we're going to insert a server script into server script service. Click the plus icon, insert our script, right? Delete our print hello world, right? Now getting into functions. Functions are blocks of code that you can execute multiple times on command. You can also connect them to events or assign them as callbacks. There are a lot of things you can do with functions. Functions are essential. If you don't really understand what functions are, let's say this. When you join the game, right? Let's say you join a game. I don't know. Let's say you join a Battlegrounds game, right? Like the strongest Battlegrounds. When you join the Battlegrounds game, you guys know how in the leaderboard in the top right, it says the amount of players, the amount of kills a player has, each individual player and stuff. Now, I'm pretty sure you know that's because your data is being saved when you leave or periodically, however they choose to do it, right? So there is a function that when you join the game, it's going to load your data. So then you see how many kills you have. Well, everybody will see, see how many kills you have, right? That is an example of a function. There are tons of functions out there. There are built-in functions. You can create functions. I'm gonna go over a built-in function, then show you guys how to create your own function, right? There's two ways to set up functions. You can go the built-in function route, which is just accessing it like this. Let's see if I wanted to function for when a player joins the game. I would say game.players.player added, right? You guys see this little lightning symbol? This is when you see the signal, this is how you know you're referencing a function. This is a function, right? So that's just how you know. So player added, player removing. This is when a player joins the game. This is when a player leaves the game, right? So let's create a function for when the player joins the game. So player added, then you put a colon, then you would connect. Remember I said connect. So connect, then you would throw your function, right? And then you guys see how we're kind of honestly following the blueprint up here. You guys see func, which is short for function, then our player. Then you would put parentheses, right? Enter, right? Because a function has to end in a built-in function has to end in this. It has to end within the word end with a right parenthesis, right? Now in here is where you would input information that the function would return, right? So in the player added function, as you guys could probably guess, the information it will return is the instance of the player who joined the game, right? So we've just created our first function. So let's say if every time the player joined the game, I wanted to print the player's name, I would say print player.name, right? So if I join the game, right, as soon as my player join the game, boom, there we go. You guys notice how it says server now, and it print my player's name, boom, right? That's a function, right? Very essential, very useful, right? Now this is just accessing a built-in function, right? There's actually two ways you can do this. You have the method we just did, and you can also do it like this. You can create a local function, right? Now a local function are functions that are accessible only within the scope in which they are defined and cannot be called from outside that scope. So I'm kind of tie this into this, right? So the way you can you can call on built-in functions is the first way I showed you, and another way is doing it like this. You can do function, and let's name it. Let's say you'd give it a name. You'd say player joined, parenthesis, right? And then you could put PLR, which is short for the player, right? Then enter, right? You guys notice how with this function it's end, because this is a function. You could call it a custom function, right? Or just a function, right? What we did the first time was a built-in function because it was something that was pre-programmed or built in by Roblox, right? This is something we're creating ourselves. So the way you can do it is you can connect it like this. You can say game.players.player added, and instead of saying connect, instead of saying connect in the word function, you would actually get the function. Because you guys remember how we put the word function here because we were actively creating the function, but we already have the function. There's no need to create a function. We just need to connect it. So what we put here is simply the name of the function. We just got to reference it. So player joined, enter, right? And then boom. Now if we put print PLR.name, right? Now, I don't know if you guys noticed. You guys noticed that it's not automatically it's not automatically like finishing the auto-correcting the thing, right? Like it's not finishing the rest of the text for us. That is because it's not built in. You're creating your own custom function. This is why I personally do not recommend doing functions like this unless it's like a custom function, like a combat function or something like that. But like for things that are built in, like when a player joins the game, a player leaves, use the built-in function. It's easier and it's better, right? So now if I click play, the same thing will happen. My name is in the output, right? Boom. So now I've showed you guys the two ways to create functions. Let me just repeat once more. I prefer and would recommend you do the first way. If you watch any of my other videos, you guys would see that I always do the first way and stuff, except for like custom functions. Now, to get into local functions, right? You can call functions at any point, right? You guys see how we set up this function. So depending on the type of function, which means you can call it. Now, you guys remember how I mentioned in the beginning of the video that local scripts keyword local, right? That means it's localized. That's what it's short for, right? So this function player join, I can call this function anywhere on the script, right? Like if I wanted to go after, like if I want to go way after and I say player join. Oh, here's how you call a function, by the way. Sorry, I didn't know if that made that clear, but yeah, here's how you would call a function, right? Because this function will only run once, right? Or sorry, it won't only run once. Sorry. Okay. Depending on how you connect the function will depend on how many times it runs. Since we connected this to whenever a player is in the game, this function will only run whenever a player joins the game, right? That's the only way. But by me also calling it here, it would also call it, right? Now, if this was another function for like, I don't know, if you just wanted to periodically check how many players in the server every like 30 seconds, then you would call it like this, right? Now, let's change this, right? Let's change this. You don't need that, right? So we don't need this. Let's just put in here. You're gonna put quotation marks. You're gonna say function has been called. I'm gonna show you guys just how to call a function, right? So it's just as I mentioned, you would just call it like this, and then it would print the function has been called, right? Now to show you guys the difference between a local function and a regular function, right? So if you notice, I can go above the function, right? Because this is outside of the scope, and I can say player join. I can still call it, right? Now, if I were to turn this into a local function, put a space, and put local, notice, like, watch this. I cannot call the function. You guys see how it's not giving me the option to. I can't, even if I, fully typed it myself, player joined and stuff, just nothing. And then it's going to give me a syntax error. Why? Because it's unknown. It's an unknown global, right? That's the thing. When it's localized, when it's local, it's localized. It's like only a certain area, like this. I can call it down here, which pretty much means you should only be using local functions for, localized things you don't need to call, before that function and stuff, right? But really, I would just recommend just going with functions, just going with, just regular functions and stuff, right? But yeah, so even though the name of the function is player join, let's just rename it to our function, right? So if I wanted to call a function, right? Since this is our custom function that's not built in, this function will only run once, and that's when the server loads up. It'll say our function has been called, right? Now, I will show you guys how to, call stuff like, repeatedly, but like while loops and stuff, while loops and things of that nature, right? So yeah, an example of, I guess, just showing you guys more built-in stuff is this. I showed you guys, when a player joins the game. Let me show you guys character stuff. So let me add onto a function. So let's create our function that we first created. Game.players.player added, connect function, in parentheses, put PLR, which is short for our player, then enter, right? Now we could expand off this. We can say player.character added, right? Boom, character added. This is another function. As you guys can see, it's fired when a player's character spawns or respawns, right? So character added, connect function. You want to pay attention to the text here because it's kind of giving you a set of instructions in a sense, right? So you would put the player's, you put the word character because this is the player's character, right? So I don't know. Let's say if every time the player character was added, you wanted to see where the character's position was. You could say print character dot humanoid root part dot position, right? Because humanoid root part is a part of the character. So if I click play, right? You guys see how it has my character's position. It's just gonna keep giving those same numbers since this is a spawn point, and I'm gonna keep spawning here. If I reset my character, you guys see how the function was called again, right? If I just keep walking around, it's not gonna be called. Every time I die and respawn, it's gonna call this function. So yeah, that's just how you simply just add on the functions and whatnot. Now, if you wanted to stop a function from being called until it's repeated again, say if you only wanted this to run one time, when the player joined the game and stuff, you could put a break right here, right? Or I think it's like that. Or wait. Now, actually, no. You know what? Never mind. Let me not even get to that. Let me not even get to that because I don't want to confuse people. I don't want to confuse myself. So let's ignore that. Now moving on to